Hi there. You're listening to The Everglade Chronicles, a reading. I'm Garrett Shave, the author. Welcome back to the podcast. There was no new episode last week as my life has been a little bit hectic. Today, however, we can all relax and take a break and enjoy a new chapter. I will be reading Chapter 3, An Earthly Encounter. Now, let's get started. The sun was setting before we heard any word. Madison and I had gone home in between then to eat and finish some routine school things. We returned at around 6, and Madison had brought some guards with her. They were modest boys, wearing black Halloween capes and holding plastic halberds. They were tall, though, which was helpful, I suppose. I had not noticed it before, but there was a large street lamp situated between my leaning trees. It illuminated the area nicely. "Do you think one of them has been here already?" I asked her. Nova had decided to stay home, so it was just the four of us now. The boys stood guard near the bridge. While they were idle, they played on their handheld gaming devices. "If they had been here, they would have fixed a poster or a note to your pole. They would make sure you were aware of their presence," she said. "They would then tell you to come to Emperor's Perch." "I am not sure why I didn't just go there in the first place," I exhaled. "Seems pointless to wait out here for some elite samurai." Suddenly the boys stiffened and extended their pikes. "Blades down, boys," the Duchess said, holding out her hand. From the darkness of the bridge strolled a solitary figure. I immediately recognized the green-tinted plastic armor of Mantis. He seemed to morph into existence, a phantom emerging from the darkness into the dim light. He was very tall, likely almost 6 feet. Atop his head he wore an Asian conical hat that was colored the same shade as his intricate armor. At his waist he carried a plastic samurai blade, tucked into a shiny black scabbard. His face was blank, dark eyes shimmering in the low light. "I'm here to see Theodore Walker," he said somberly. His voice was pronounced and deep. "I am the new lord here," I said, stepping forward. "How nice of you to bring friends," the samurai said bluntly, looking around. "I am Mantis of the Elite Four. I am here to accept your oath of fealty to the Exalted One, the Dragon Emperor." Mantis appeared to be at least 15, if not older. He had bristles of manly hair on his face and dark, dark eyes. His expression remained blank as he approached me. I could see his rippling large arms. He was quite burly under that armor. "I have never performed an oath of fealty before. My apologies, Lord Mantis," I said. "I am no lord," he answered immediately, his tone angry. "Do not address me as such." "1,000 apologies, Mantis," Madison interjected. "He is very new at this." "I have little patience for newbies," the samurai replied. "Simply bow before me and pledge your loyalty to the Dragon Emperor. By law, you must address him as the Exalted One." And so that is what I did. I bent down on one knee in front of this powerful teenager and pledged my allegiance to the Dragon Emperor. I made sure to call him a radiant king, the Exalted One, and the Keeper of the Realm. This I had learned from watching several historical television shows. Mantis seemed pleased with the extra titles I remarked, and gave me a small smirk. "By the powers entrusted to me as an Elite Four, protector of the Dragon Throne, sworn blade of the Exalted One, I hereby accept your oath. I hereby proclaim you Lord of Cloverleaf." "Thank you, Mantis," I said, rising. "I appreciate you coming all the way out here." He merely looked at me. "It is my job, my lord." I did not speak as Mantis slithered back into the darkness from whence he came. "How eerie," I said quietly. The Exalted One was in my dreams that night. Restless I was, thrashing about, unable to sleep. The imposing dream emperor was of towering height. He was certainly taller than Mantis. However, he seemed restful and calm, like a charmed snake. He sat on his throne and merely watched me through veiled eyes. They were sharp and blue, like sparkling sapphires. I awoke with a jump, sweaty. A week had passed before I had fully gripped the responsibilities of the meadow. While I was a lord, I was responsible for my own little slice of land. Using my position, I managed to make a few friends. A classmate of mine, Garth, was already an avid meadow player and volunteered his time to be my messenger. Among my new comrades were Lucille, a pretty young girl who was curious about Cloverleaf, Victor, who was a gangly soldier, and Eva, an astute young scholar. Eva seemed drawn to me and was my most steady court member. She had sandy hair cut into a bob. She also had circular glasses that reminded me of Harry Potter. The Emperor himself supported the arts, and he also supported educational measures. This was why Eva and a few choice others could call themselves scholars. Some of the city builders had constructed a new, taller yellow slide with a lookout near the rounded bend of the asphalt path on the island. The Dragon Emperor had declared that an observatory, and so many scholars were needed. Eva's own field of expertise was astronomy. She certainly loved looking at the stars. The scholars, I was told, were classified as upper commons. Their exact position in the hierarchy was confusing, and I pretended to understand their rank. Through the week, and some days thereafter, there was no sign of the Emperor. He barely leaves his perch, Eva told me. The Elite Four do his bidding, and that's that. My attention had been turned to the lush forest past, the border, the place they called Gaia. "Do you think it proper of me to visit Gaia?" I asked her. The young scholar folded her arms and shook her head. "No, that's foreign country." "What if I were to declare myself an emissary?" "Still," she huffed, "the Emperor would need to approve it and give you imperial permission." "I suppose I shall have to visit it alone, without permission and in secret," I mumbled. "Goodness, no, my lord!" Eva was exacerbated now. "If you are discovered there, the Emperor will execute you." I moaned and turned towards the narrow Cloverleaf bridge. Garth was strolling across. He was the same height as me, but his blond hair hung well below his shoulders. He had a long face and a long nose. His eyes were an elegant shade of green. Akin to his facial features, his body was long and skinny. He almost looked like a wooden popsicle stick. "Welcome, Garth," I said with a smile. He bowed before me. Garth's role in the game was that of a commoner and a guard. "My lord," he said, his voice was high-pitched and near puberty. "How are you this afternoon?" "Well enough, I should think," I replied, fixing my glasses. "I am adjusting well to my new lordship." "Any news for his lordship?" Eva asked, stepping forward. "Some," he replied. "There is an upcoming long weekend, and the Emperor himself wishes to declare the season officially open. He will be hosting a party, no doubt. All children are required to attend." "That is excellent news," Eva said with a smile. "I cannot wait." I nodded. It would be the first time I should glimpse the face of our ruler. Long had I dreamt of what his face might look like under his veil. All I could picture were blue, intense eyes. "You seem like you're in a dreamy state, my lord," my friend Garth said, poking me. "No, nothing like that," I replied, laughing. "I am only eager to finally see the Emperor. He will only appear for a moment, perhaps to make a speech and talk briefly. He is hardly seen in public," Eva informed me shrewdly. "Still," I said, "it will be nice to catch a glimpse of the boy we all serve." Garth nodded and pulled his jeans a little. "I must be going then. Have a good one." Even after Garth had gone, and Eva began telling me about astronomy, my interest in Gaia was too high to simply shrug it off. Could I manage a meeting? Could I travel to such a place? "I have to go," she said abruptly, gazing down at her pink watch. "Homework time." "I shall see you tomorrow evening then," I said. "I might be back this evening," she said with a smile. I waved Eva off and then decided what to do about my addiction for Gaia. From the Cloverleaf Bridge spanned two paths. The one to the right led you around the bend, past the observatory, and into the royal city. The left was mostly unused gravel and traveled along the outer rim of the former lost forest. I could see the enduring trees from where I stood. I could also see a few boys standing guard along the path. They did not appear to be working for the Empire. Their uniforms were green Roman cuirass, plastic armor, and long burlap brown capes. Atop their heads they wore bonnets with spikes and carried spears in their hands. I decided to take a chance and walk down the path. I was no more than 3 feet away when they clinked their spears together, forming an X. "Might I not pass?" I inquired innocently. "There is no free pass into Gaia," the tall one on the left said. "You do not look like a member of our prince's court." "But I am a lord, here to see the prince," I protested. Those who serve the Emperor require a formal letter from the Emperor to enter, the right one informed me. Would it make a difference if I told you I was a relative of the late Queen? The two guards exchanged wary looks. What do you mean, kid? The left one asked. I am a cousin of Queen Isis, I said boldly. Lord Theodore Walker. Their spears retreated and they waved me through. Thank you, kind sirs, I said happily. That was quite easy. Gaia was not how I imagined it. Certainly I pictured a dense forest, but nothing like this. For the size of the meadow, this was certainly a huge maze. I followed the path around, snaking its way across the wide expanse of forest. I could see the homes across the river, but yet found no trace of civilization. Confused, I diverted my path towards the center, and before long stumbled upon an old playground. There were kids about, doing kids' things as I walked up. The equipment was old and rusty, but the kids seemed to be still having fun. There was a tall slide with a lookout, a raised circular compound with tic-tac-toe, and a small blue wavy slide. Swing sets and seesaws were off to the side. The area looked concealed and dank, quite secretive and hidden. A teenager in a familiar soldier's outfit was the first to spot me and approached me immediately. He could tell that I was an interloper. Might I see your imperial letter permitting you entrance? He asked sharply. I'm afraid I don't have one of those. So you snuck in undetected. He was becoming irritated. Not really, no, I countered. So, then you bribed our guard. No, nothing like that. I raised my hands in defense. I should take you before His Highness. The guard was excitedly angry. He's the one I came to see, actually, I answered. Who are you, anyway? He asked. Lord Theo of Cloverleaf, I replied quickly. The boy, whose height reflected the trees around us, sighed. I shall take you before their royal highnesses. They shall decide what to do with you, intruder. The teen guard had taken me roughly by the arm and dragged me towards the raised circular compound. There were other guards there, I noticed. A few kids were standing in the lookout, peering into the woods. I wondered if this was the royal castle, home to Prince Oberon and his merry court. The teen let me fall inside the circular room. A few kids around me were idle, playing tic-tac-toe on the walls. His Highness shall be along shortly, the soldier informed me. With hardly enough time to compose myself, I came face to face with a goddess. She was lofty, statuesque, and beautiful. Thin and agile, she kept her hands tented at center. I could not help but notice her sky-blue gown that draped the floor, nor her long, wavy blonde hair that fell to her waist. She was descending from the slide entrance and noticed me quite quickly. A puzzled look on her face. She did not have time to speak before Prince Oberon descended from his peak. Mark was elevated now, older than he once was. He wore a long robe-like jacket, undone and adorned with large golden buttons. It was navy blue and looked like a linen-cotton mix. Atop his head he wore a thin gold-plated crown and a tranquil look on his face. Signs of dark facial hair graced his upper lip and jawline. He walked as if he floated like a cloud. The pair looked angelic. This must be the young Theo Walker I have heard so much about, he said, his voice a deep baritone. The kids around us stopped playing and bowed softly before him. Their attentiveness was interesting. They seemed to worship these royals as if they were gods. The goddess beside me did nothing. Yes, that is correct, I stammered, feeling my hands becoming clammy. I am that boy. My, you look so much like your cousin, the prince observed, his eyes sparkling politely. This is the cousin of Queen Isis? The girl asked, shocked. Her eyes shimmered a delicate turquoise. Yes, the one that the trees have been telling us all about, Mark smiled. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Prince Oberon, the leader of Gaia. This is my lovely consort, Princess Violet. Violet! This was the girl the Emperor was so smitten with. I could tell why. She was beautiful, elegant, the very definition of a princess. She smiled vacantly at me. I could tell she was not impressed with what she was seeing. It was true, though. I was small, and rather feeble compared to my momentous cousin, who had once ruled this entire meadow. How is Jessica? The prince inquired gently. She is well, I answered. Busy with final exams. "What are you doing here?" the princess asked suddenly. "You could be executed for trespassing into Gaia, you know. Your emperor is quite fierce." "I longed to see the Lost Forest," I answered frankly. "Madison, the Duchess of Sunset, told me so little about the place. My cousin and a few others have told me stories. I only wanted to see it for myself, you see." Mark was smiling, but Violet was not. "I am assuming our good friend the Duchess informed you of our great trial? I served so honorably under Isis, but when the time came I had to leave. It was only when these poor souls begged me that I came back to defend my home. Gaia was once the Lost Forest, yes, a part of the Everglade Metal Kingdom. Your ruler, the Dragon Emperor, has divided us so." "I have heard the story," I said thoughtfully. "I am glad you came back, Mark. I have heard tales of your loyalty and your great strength." "I am simply a humble servant of the forest," he answered. "Back in the days of Venus and Isis, I was the heir of the Lost Forest. That was stolen from me, but I have worked hard to set this place to rights. My princess here, Violet, was instrumental in the separation." "We do not wish to ever rejoin the Empire," Violet snarled. "I hate that boy. He is nothing but a fool, tossing aside his betrothed to try and propose to me. What was he thinking?" "His betrothed?" I asked, curious. "The Dragon Emperor was so smitten with our lovely Princess Violet that he tossed aside the girl he pledged to make his empress," the prince told me. He gestured for me to sit down. He and Violet sat on the steps leading to the tall slide. Oberon rested his hands on his knees. "Lady Sakura is her name, and she is as elegant as a queen, and as powerful as a true empress. If you have met Lord Tetsuo, they are siblings." "The Emperor tried many times to make me his consort," Violet said, clenching her fists. "He would not have it any other way. He's a typical teenager, lusting after beautiful girls. I knew he was using me, for if I became the Empress, Gaia would certainly be forced to rejoin the Empire, and he could be happy at last. There are rumors that he keeps Lady Sakura at his perch, as his own, shall we say, bird in a cage," the prince continued, placing both his hands into his robe pockets. "What of this Lady Sakura, then?" I asked. "Does she simply wait at the palace?" "The self-proclaimed Queen of Rivers is as powerless as ever," Mark explained. "The Emperor will not marry her, and her lands are taken. Many claim she has spiritual powers." "He shall not marry me either," Violet huffed. "I am the consort of our beloved Highness, Oberon." Mark nodded. "That is the name I have chosen to use in this life, but you, young lad, may still call me Mark. Oberon is so much more a powerful moniker, don't you think?" I nodded and remembered my own story. The chief administrator made me the Lord of Cloverleaf despite my royal blood. While it has been a grave injustice to my family, it is a start. "I would think the Emperor himself shall pay you a visit, young Theo," Mark said, staring at me, "once he learns of your visit here. You are a walker, and what we kingdom players call royal to the core. He will want to speak with you." "I do not see why," I countered sadly. "I am low, a solitary lord with hardly a slice of land." "Your royal heritage makes you a threat, however," Violet remarked. She gave Mark a look. "Might I offer you a bit of advice?" Oberon looked over at me. "Yes, anything from you," I said with a smile. "Be wary of this Emperor, Theo. Do not trust him. He does not mean well." "When freedom is concerned, the Emperor never means well," Violet sighed. I nodded in reply, absorbing those words. "Now that you have visited our principality, I wish to extend a formal invitation," Oberon said. He clapped his hands, and the same teenager that brought me here returned with a small emerald pendant. "You must keep this pendant on you and display it only to my guards along the path. They will allow you entrance into my realm." "Why are you offering him such a thing?" the princess asked coldly. "Inviting a walker relation into our kingdom? How absurd! Sire, my prince, is this not jeopardizing our situation?" "Hardly," Mark replied with a slight smile. "We have more intel than we know what to do with. The Emperor does not know it, but we have spies everywhere. Such is necessary to retain our peace and to retain our independence." I accepted the pendant with great thanks. "I have heard tale that a few of the old order remain. Is that not true?" "Yes," Mark said. Among Madison and me, Cora Hastings remains. I do not know where she is most days, but she does reside here. She is the ousted Lady Spymaster, the keeper of whispers. She is the true source of much of our intel. Sassy Cassie has taught her well. Oh, how I miss the old days. Would it be impossible to seek Cora out? Perhaps, Violet interjected. You might as well just ask your cousin. They are close friends. Thank you, your highnesses, I said, bowing gratefully. I appreciate you allowing me to enter your realm. I promise wholeheartedly I will not jeopardize your rulings. You are an innocent player in all of this, Theo, Mark said, looking at me again. I know you mean no harm, and you are a friend. However, you must watch yourself. I mean to, yes, I replied. I had already prepared myself, but I was more curious than prepared. The others had told me so much, especially about the Dragon Emperor's cruel way. Yet I was still curious to see him and to hear him speak. Before I go, I mumbled, the Dragon Emperor is planning on announcing the commencement of the season next weekend, where we have the Friday off. Shall you attend? We already know this, Violet said sharply. Considering we are at peace, perhaps, Oberyn replied. However, the season has already begun for us, young one. You forget, we are our own entity over here. The Emperor has no say in our dealings. I nodded. I had seemingly forgotten. Farewell for now, I said, exiting the circular compound. I could not wait for the long weekend when the Emperor himself would stand before his people and declare the season open. I was curious to see the others of his court. Deep in my heart I had wanted to lay my eyes on Lady Sakura, the outcast Queen of Rivers. She seemed like the most intriguing member of the dainty court. I was also eager to see the other Elite Four. If they were as powerful as Mantis, then certainly they were a force to be reckoned with. The following evening I strolled along the gravel path to Sunset Town. Many children were already at work, and they did not stop to bow before me. I was not of a high enough rank to command such prowess. Only the Duchess could rally respect in this part of the meadow. I found Madison conversing with a few farmers in her royal grotto, surrounded by skyscraper pines. She was wearing a summer dress despite the chilly evening. Good evening, your grace, I swept her a low bow. What do I owe the pleasure, my lord? She asked, placing her hands at center. The farmers dispersed rather quickly, hearing that I was a lord. I wanted to inquire about someone in a most discreet way, I answered. This piqued her interest. Do go on. I have heard much about Lady Sakura, the outcasted bride-to-be. What do you wish to know of her? The Duchess asked, her eyes wide with surprise and intrigue. Someone told me she is the self-proclaimed Queen of Rivers. I wanted to know what that was all about. I have not heard the term before. The Duchess took a seat. As you might have noticed, there is a river that flows around the meadow. Some call it a lake, but it is most definitely a river. When Sakura Morimoto first began this game about a season or so ago, she was quite preternatural and imaginative. This is what led to the rumors of her being a sorceress. Her brother was more toned down and accepted the role of Lord of the Royal City. Sakura was the first seer we had ever seen, a mysterious being and user of magic. The Dragon Emperor was captivated by this display of sorcery and invited her to his court. He made her a lady, as he had made her brother a lord. She claimed to be a product of a river, hence the term Queen of Rivers. It is really quite a pointless term. She has zero royal authority and has since being imprisoned has lost most of her magic. So she is imprisoned, I replied, rubbing my chin methodically. How interesting. The Dragon Emperor, seeing the power within her, desired to make her his empress. With such a formidable girl by his side, certainly the Emperor would be unstoppable, Madison carried on. This was around the time that the Lost Forest began to revolt. When he saw Princess Violet, things changed. She is considered by many to be the fairest of them all. Did he fall in love with her? I asked, knowing full well the answer was a hard yes. Madison nodded. They say the Dragon Emperor has but one weakness, and that fabled weakness is the look of a pretty girl. No less, Violet is a stunning lady. He fell head over heels in love with her. She refused him more than once, naturally, and the Emperor decided that Lady Sakura was not to be his empress. This beautiful swan princess must be his, and so he has ruthlessly pursued her ever since. However, Violet is already the consort of Prince Oberon. So, Lady Sakura is trapped up there, in the perch? The Duchess nodded. Yes, unfortunately. Her imprisonment is like a curse. It has totally drained her of her mystical powers. Thank you for clearing that all up for me, I said with a smile. That is quite an intriguing story. Of course, my lord, Madison replied. I strive to ensure our history endures. That concludes Chapter 3 of The Tale of the Cloverleaf Lord. Join me next week when we tackle Chapter 4 entitled New Allies, Old Friends. Thanks for listening and have a great week. Stay warm, it's cold outside. Dragon Boats by Fass is the music used during this novel on the podcast. Find us online on Facebook and Instagram by searching at Everglade Chronicles. You can find all 3 of the Everglade Chronicles novels exclusively on Amazon. Thank you kindly for your support.